I could draw your attention over here to the board, and Tuba's going to put your horns to the side so they can see past your nose. As you can see right here, I've drawn a triangle, and at the tips of it are our breath, our articulation, as well as our embouchure, which is how we form our lips, the muscles in our face. And the breath, as you can see, is one point of the triangle in producing tone. So what I want us to do now, get your horns up and ready, and we're going to play through the D-flat scale in half tones. And make sure that you're using lots of air as you go to the top note of the scale. Continue using the air as you go back down, and we will have the arpeggio at the end. Okay? It also affects our embouchure, how our lips work, and how we articulate. Who can raise their hand and tell me why? Yes, Dustin?
Because the speed of your air can change.
The speed of the air does tie into that, yes. But we're looking at why does the speed of the air affect it? Yes. We do tend to tighten up. Yes, Riley?
Sometimes when you run out of air, your sound sort of starts to fumble.
We're getting there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie all these ideas together for you. Whenever we do not use proper air, our lips, our embouchure, cannot function properly because it's not able to vibrate anymore. If I sit here and just I can get it to buzz, but if I don't push hard enough, I can't actually get a solid buzz. And I'll demonstrate that for you on the trumpet as well so you can hear it on an actual instrument. This is me not using enough air. See how if I don't constantly support the air, the sound diminishes. Now I'm going to actually support the sound. And when I support that sound, there are two aspects of that sound that are affected by the breath. The articulation, which is how I start and end the note, the beginning and end of the note, as well as the middle of the note that is focused by the embouchure. So, looking at that, what I want us to do is we're going to play our scale study again, but what we're going to do is we're going to add a breathing exercise to it. So before we start the scale study, the study number 3, I'm going to teach you the breathing exercise. You won't need your instruments for this. This is strictly with the breath. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have our snare drum player. You're going to tap quarter notes for me. And what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in on beat 4 and breathe out for beats 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So I'm going to model this for you first, and then I'll have everybody join me. So we'll have our quarter notes. 1, 2. Okay? So now I'm going to have everybody join me in doing that. So make sure you're sitting up with the best posture you can have. 1, 2, 3. So now, before we move on to study number 3, we're going to look at, in order so we can get the most out of this exercise, we're going to look at a couple of elements of taking a proper breath. So who can raise their hand and tell me one element of taking a proper breath? Just one element of taking a proper breath. Yes? Uh-huh. And this deals with taking a breath outside of just music. Before we're beginning to play, what are things that we check in taking that breath? Yes, Dustin? Posture, very good. I'm just going to abbreviate that with a P for right now. So we have P for posture, and what is another one?
Breathing with the mouth.
Yes, breathing with the mouth. And what about the mouth? Be a little more specific. What about the mouth do we need to change in order to take a full breath? Yes. Yes, we need to open up our mouth more. What is one more that we can think of? Yes?
Really push your stomach and not your face.
Correct. And I'm going to rephrase that for you. Expansion, which means how our body fills up with air. So, in the way we think of expansion, do we think of breathing up or do we think of breathing down? Yes. Up. I'll clarify this point for you. Whenever we breathe up, the air fills up in our lungs, but it is inside of our ribs, and the ribs stops the expansion from happening further. So that is why we want to think of breathing down. So, the third and final aspect of breathing that we're going to cover for today is downward expansion. Okay? So before we move on to the study number 3 with our breathing exercise, what I want to do is I'm going to walk you through these 3 elements of taking a full breath. So we're going to start first with posture. Now, as you're modeling the posture for me, can anyone raise their hand and tell me some characteristics of good posture? Yes. Feet flat on the floor. What's another? The back is straight. Yes. Sit at the front of your chair. And correct. And yes. And how should we hold our head? Yes.
Like a little high so our throats don't close up and we don't stop the airflow.
Correct. We don't want to have our head really far back or really far forward. We want it to be centered on the spine as we're sitting up. The shoulders are relaxed. The back is straight and the feet are flat on the ground so that our feet and lower body form a basis in which we can sit on so that our upper body can be moved. Yes, it's also a very good word. So, I'm going to check the room very quickly to make sure we're all sitting with proper posture. And make sure you have your instruments in the ready position to play. That way I can make sure we are as accurate as possible. See, with bassoon, one of the things we have is we tend to want to dip our left shoulder forward. So make sure that the shoulders are straight across. Very good, trombones. Very good. Very good, baritones. Very good, horns. Excellent job. Make sure you don't sit a little too far forward. You want to lean back just ever so slightly to get your back straight. There you go. Very good. Very good. Okay, so now that we have mastered posture, what is our next point of breathing we're going to work on? Yes, we want to work on our downward expansion. And so now what I want us to think of with downward expansion is not just thinking of how much air we can force into our lungs, but taking the most relaxed breath possible. Because you can't really expand fully if you are tense. So what we want to focus on with expansion is not just breathing down so that our stomach is what expands, but also breathing in the most relaxed state that we can. Okay, so now that we have our posture set, what we're going to do is to tempo, we're just going to take some nice relaxed breaths. We're going to breathe in for 4 beats and out for 4 beats. Slow, steady breaths. Ready? 1, 2, ready? Very good. So now, what we're going to do is, does everyone remember the breathing exercise that we did where we breathed in on beat 4 and out for beats 1, 2, and 3. We're going to do that again very quickly before we add that to our study number 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Breathe in and out. 2, 3. In, out. 2, 3. In, out. 2, 3. In, out. 2, 3. In, out. 2, 3. Make sure you keep going, and what I want you to do is keep going with this exercise. I'm going to walk around and check everyone before we move on to the study number 3. So 1, 2, 3, in, out. Make sure you're breathing through your mouth. Make sure your mouth is opening whenever you breathe. Yeah, trumpets, make sure you're opening your mouth more. Very good. So now what we're going to do is we will have 3 measures where it will be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, play. So it will be 1, 2, 3, breathe. 1, 2, 3, breathe, play. Okay? Any questions about that before we move on to study number 3? Yes. We're going to do our study number 3, so it will be starting on now. And during the measures of breath, in between their playing, continue with the quarter notes on the snare. Thank you. Ready? So before we start, we'll have the 3 measures of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Very good. Very good. She's got the idea. But we'll do that together as a group. Ready? So 1, 2, 3. Breathe. 1, 2, 3. Breathe. 1, 2, 3. Breathe. Breathe. So, in between, we'll have F, E flat, F. 1, 2, 3, breathe. 1, 2, 3, breathe. 1, 2, 3, breathe. E flat, D, E flat. Okay? Let's do that again. So before we play, we're going to have the 3 measures of the breathing exercise. And then in between the E flat, F, E flat, F. Breathe. 1, 2, 3, breathe. 1, 2, 3, breathe. 1, 2, 3, breathe. E flat, D, E flat. Okay? So let's do that real quick. 1, 2, breathing exercise. 1, 2, 3. Air, breathe. Lots of air from Very good. Very good. So, now that we've talked about how our breath affects our posture and our articulation, we're going to talk about some other aspects of how we breathe. But this time, instead of how it affects our tone, we're going to think of how it affects the music that we make. So, what we're going to do is we're going to play up the B flat scale in half. Okay? Yes.
Are we just going up, or are we doing the whole scale?
Yeah, we're going to do the whole scale with the arpeggio. Yeah, it's going to be half notes. B flat scale and half notes with the arpeggio at the end. Ready? 1, 2, 3. So, what the aspect of how our breathing affects our music that we're going to discuss now is how it affects the phrase that we play. So whenever we play the B flat scale in half notes, the phrase goes from one B flat all the way up the scale and all the way down. That's one phrase. Then the next phrase is the arpeggio. Like that. So we have two phrases that we have to make. However, we don't want those phrases to break while we're playing. So how do we achieve that even though we have to breathe somewhere? It's if we tried to play all the way through the scale without taking a breath, we would end up with a bad sound by the time we got to the end. So we have to breathe somewhere. So we have to think of what is the solution that we can do that so that we can play with a good sound all the way through without running out of air, without breaking. Yes? Very good. If we breathe at the top, that's a good place where we can get air for going all the way back down. But if we all breathe at that spot, there's going to be a break in our sound as an ensemble. So, what we do is what's called stagger breathing. Stagger breathing, to where we have part of us that breathe at one point, but another part of us that breathes at another. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign you to groups 1 and 2. And what we're going to do is group 1 will breathe at the B flat. Group 2 will breathe on the F, concert F. So trumpets, this will be your G, clarinets, this will be your G. Flutes, that will be your F or B flat, and so on. Okay? So what we're going to do is this half of the clarinets, the back row, and you. are going to be group one. So go ahead and raise your hand if you're in group one. So you're just from, sorry, what did you do? From Jessica over in the back row, and then Mason in the front row. You were group one, so go ahead and keep your hand in the air. You're going to be, this half of the trumpets, you're going to be group one. So go ahead and raise your hands. And then for the trombones, what is your name, please? Your name, yes. Randy. Randy? From Randy over, you're going to be group one in the trombones. And then Fitz and Jake, both of you are going to be group one for the baritones. Then Dusty, you're going to be group one for the tubas. And then you will be one for the bassoons, one for the horns, and then this half of the flutes will be group one for the flute. So go ahead and raise your hand if you are in group one. Very good. So if you do not have your hand raised, go ahead and raise it. And if you have your hand raised now, put it down. Very good. You all will be group two. So group two will breathe on concert F. Yes? Both times. If you play a concert F, what I want you to do is play halfway through. Excuse me. Take a breath for the whole note. Okay? And then come in on the next note. If you are in group one, breathe on the top B flat. The top B flat. Yes?
So we plan to breathe on the concert F on the way up and on the way down too, or just on the way up?
Yes. On the way up and the way down. Yes. And so what we're trying to establish here is that we're all breathing at a different time so that our sound is seamless. Yes.
I'm going to play on the arpeggios.
Yes. Play on the arp. If you can make it all the, excuse me, I won't break what I just said. If on the arpeggio for group two, breathe on the F on the way down. So not the first F on the way up, but the F coming down. Okay? Any questions about that before we start? All right. Everybody get set? Yes.
So the second one,
Yes, for clarinets, you're going to breathe on the G going up the scale, the G coming down the scale, and the G coming down the arpeggio. Okay? In half notes, correct. B flat scale and half notes with the arpeggio at the end. 1, 2, ready? Very good. So it affects our articulation. What else about the physicality of how we play? How does it affect the physicality of how we play? Yes. Very good. It affects your embouchure. And yes. And it affects the tone. Very, very good. Now about how we play in music. How does this affect how we play in music? Yes. Very good. If we don't support our tone can go sharp or flat. That's another. Yes. Right. And with, just to clarify the last point I made with the stagnant breathing, if in music, we have long notes, but we do not breathe at different points. We'll all breathe together and there will be a gap in our sound. So that's why we stagger breathe, is so that we have a continuous sound. Sounds like an organ. Okay? Thank you very much, class. Great job.